All right, welcome to today's Explainer. We're unpacking this really fascinating framework by Katie Clark. It's all about how mastering your attention literally dictates the reality you experience day to day. If you've ever felt like your focus is just constantly hijacked, or you're stuck in these patterns you can't seem to shake, yeah, you're absolutely in the right place. We're going to map out exactly how your attention acts as a creative force, and more importantly, how to get the reins back. So, you might know the author Florence Scovel Shen. She famously said, "Your word is your wand." Well, this source material adapts that in such a brilliant way, arguing instead that your awareness is your wand. And honestly, this sets the stage for everything we're talking about today. Conscious awareness is the actual mechanism directing your life's energy. Basically, whatever you point your awareness at, whether it's just in your head or out there in the real world, you intensify your experience of that exact thing. Which brings us to a pretty crucial question. Kind of forces a little immediate introspection, right? I want you to genuinely ask yourself right now, today, where are you casting your wand? Like, are you focusing on things that actually empower you, or are you unintentionally shining a massive spotlight on all your frustrations? Just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this. Okay, so here's our roadmap. We're looking at 5 things. First, the magic wand. Then, the autopilot problem. Third, horizontal versus vertical awareness. Fourth, 3 keys to focus. And finally, we'll wrap up with the 3-day detox. Let's just jump right in. All right, part 1, the magic wand, and how we actually direct our internal power. Because we usually think our inability to change things is just a lack of energy or ability. But the source frames this totally differently. Get this. The speaker argues something genuinely astonishing. You possess enough internal life force energy to literally fuel an entire modern city for a week. Think about that scale for a second. What that means is a lack of power or potential is never the issue. You already have every resource internally to make your desired reality happen. The real problem, it's just how you're directing that massive energetic potential. And what's so cool is how the source grounds these sort of abstract spiritual concepts. Like, you are not just your physical body, right? And you're not the random thoughts just bouncing around in your head. You are the observer, this pure, conscious essence. The source actually links this straight to the observer effect in quantum mechanics, where subatomic particles are literally influenced by being watched. So think of your consciousness like a giant lighthouse. You're surrounded by infinite potential experiences out there in the dark, but you're only going to materialize the specific realities that you illuminate with your attention.
Moving on to part 2, the autopilot problem, or what we can call the hijacked mind. Because this brings up a super obvious dilemma. If we've got all this incredible lighthouse power, why on earth do so many of us feel stuck, or stressed about money, or just endlessly overwhelmed?
Well, the source points out that for most of us, our attention has basically gone completely unconscious. We are running on pure autopilot. The thing is, infinite intelligence, it doesn't care if you like or dislike something. It only cares that you are focused on it. So if you're constantly dwelling on a problem, say credit card debt or a really toxic relationship, your awareness is acting like a magnet. You're pouring all that city-powering life force into the problem and unintentionally drawing in way more of exactly what you do not want.
And the culprits stealing our focus? They're literally everywhere. Social media corporations are actively harvesting your conscious awareness for billions of dollars. And that endless short-form scrolling, it just destroys your ability to sustain any real attention. But the most striking metaphor here is about our default neural pathways. The source calls them well-trodden forest paths. When you wake up, your mind just defaults to the easiest, most familiar path. Maybe it's the path of struggling to just make ends meet, because it's cleared out and easy to walk. It avoids the uncleared path of, say, abundance or success, simply because you haven't walked it enough yet. Your programming is totally dictating your attention.
Which brings us to part 3, horizontal versus vertical awareness. Because if we want to escape this whole autopilot matrix and stop walking down those frustrating forest paths, the source introduces this absolutely vital paradigm shift in how we categorize our attention.
So the key here is a really sharp contrast. On one side, you have horizontal awareness. This is shallow. It's totally reactive. It's you impulsively losing your mind when someone cuts you off in traffic, or just mindlessly consuming gossip and media. It has zero depth. But then, on the other side, you have vertical awareness. This is deep. It's introspective. It happens when you actively choose to disconnect from all that external noise and turn your attention inward. And the source argues this. This vertical state is where actual psychological growth and real shifts in your physical reality happen.
All right, part 4. 3 keys to focus and reclaiming your reality. Because let's be honest, understanding horizontal versus vertical awareness is great in theory, but how do we actually pull our focus away from the algorithms and our own bad habits?
Well, the source lays out 3 sequential steps to help rewire those neural pathways and get your attention back under your control. Let's break down exactly how you can apply these, starting right now. Step 1 is moment-to-moment redirection. And honestly, this is a highly active, pretty difficult skill. The source compares an unfocused mind to a dog with a bone. Like, when you're venting about a problem to a friend, your emotions get tangled up in it, and you end up magnifying that negative outcome. The trick here is to catch yourself in the act. Notice when you're giving your life force away, and literally pivot your wand, your focus, directly toward the preferred solution in that exact moment.
Then we build on that with step 2, sustained focus. Because just paying attention for a few seconds, it's not going to cut it. The source shares this really great personal anecdote about their own YouTube success. They noticed that at first, they'd only briefly focus on their goals before shooting a video. And it just didn't work. Fleeting focus fails. It was only when they sustained their attention, doing the deep reading, studying, pouring continuous energy into assuming this new identity as a successful creator, that those old, stubborn neural pathways were finally overridden.
And finally, step 3. You have to go vertical. You deliberately unplug from all that horizontal noise and look inside. The whole framework here suggests that your external reality is really just a mirror reflecting your internal state. So, if you're hitting walls or facing recurring problems out in the physical world, you gotta go vertical into your inner world. Fix the internal misalignments first, and the external stuff will follow. Okay, part 5, the 3-day detox. Basically an attention audit. Now that we've got the theory and those 3 keys, the source drops a highly practical challenge to kickstart everything. Because you aren't just supposed to learn this stuff, right? You're supposed to live it. So here's the challenge. First, audit your daily life to find your specific attention drainers. We're talking short-form scrolling, TV binges, endless complaining. Identify them and then commit to cutting them out entirely for just 3 days. The source actually mentions tying this to Lent, but honestly, you can start this any given Tuesday. The secret, though, is you can't just leave an empty void. You have to swap those drainers out for vertical, empowering replacements. Trade the doom scrolling for reading a book. Swap the Netflix binge for meditation. Turn your gossip sessions into journaling. If you do this for just 3 days, you're going to realize you've had all the energy you ever needed. You were just leaking it everywhere.
As we wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought straight from the source material. What have you been paying attention to that is draining you and keeping you stuck? Seriously, take a minute today to audit your own mind. Reclaim your life force and start casting your wand with actual intention. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks a massive shift in your reality.